I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Dave, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 10 years now. We met when we were both in our late 20s, and for the most part, I thought we had a good thing going. Sure, she could be bitchy sometimes, especially when she didn't get her way. And yeah, she was always quick with a lie or a sharp retort, but I figured that was just her personality. I never suspected there was anything really wrong, at least not until the last few months. About 6 months ago, I got diagnosed with terminal cancer. Yeah, I know, it sounds like a terrible punchline, but I swear it's real. The doctors gave me maybe a year, maybe less. The prognosis was grim, and suddenly, everything shifted. I threw myself into experimental treatments, stuff that wasn't even approved yet, but I was willing to try just about anything. Lisa, of course, was mostly supportive at first. She'd sit with me during chemo, hold my hand, and make all the right noises. But I started noticing little things, things that didn't add up. Messages on her phone, odd trips she'd take, and her becoming more secretive. I chalked it up to her being stressed, or maybe just her usual bitchiness flaring up. Then I started noticing her phone was always on silent, and she'd hide it whenever I got near. She'd brush off my questions, telling me I was paranoid or imagining things. I was so weak from the chemo that I didn't push too hard. But one night I caught her sneaking out of the house. It was late, around midnight, and she slipped out like she was trying not to wake me. I followed her just out of curiosity, and she went straight to some hotel parking lot. I saw her get into a car with a guy I didn't recognize. They kissed goodbye and she drove off. My stomach churned. Who was this guy? And what was she doing with him when I was barely holding on to my life? That was the beginning of everything falling apart. I didn't even confront her then. I was too stunned. But I knew this wasn't just the usual bitchy attitude or stress. It was something deeper. I started digging into her phone, her emails, anything I could find. That's when I discovered the truth. Lisa wasn't just sneaking around. She was involved with this guy, Mark, a specialist working on her experimental cancer treatment. I found messages between them coordinating research trips, but it was obvious they weren't just research trips. They were romantic getaways, secret weekends, late-night calls from hotel rooms. Their timelines matched my worsening health, my declining survival chances. Their research was their affair. That's when I realized everything I believed about our marriage was a lie. It hit me hard, more than the cancer itself. I've been fighting for my life, and it felt like she was fighting for something else entirely, her own happiness, her own betrayal. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I was lying in bed, feeling like I was hanging by a thread, and she was out there, living a double life with the guy testing the cure that might just extend my lifespan, or end it. It made me furious, devastated, and strangely numb all at once. That was the moment I knew I had to confront her, no matter how much it hurt. The morning I decided to confront her, I was already exhausted. The chemo side effects had me drained, lying in bed trying to muster the energy to do anything. Lisa came home late again, smelling like perfume and hotel sheets. I kept calm at first, asking her where she was all night, and she gave me this canned, bitchy smile, like I was the crazy one for asking. She told me she was out with her friends, hitting a bar or some bullshit. But I knew better. The evidence was right there in her phone, the messages, the time stamps, every detail screaming that she was lying. I waited until she was in the kitchen, making her usual snide remarks about my paranoia. And then I just snapped. I pulled out her phone and I laid everything bare. I told her I knew about Mark, about the hotel, about the research trips that were really secret weekends with her lover. Her face twisted into this ugly sneer, like I was the one ruining everything. She rolled her eyes, scoffing, saying I was psycho, that I was losing it because of my cancer. She told me I was jealous, that Mark was just a friend helping her with the treatment, that I was crazy for assuming the worst. That was her go-to. Deny, deny. Deny, but I had enough. I told her I wanted the truth, that I deserved honesty, especially now that I was fighting for my life. She looked at me, eyes cold and calculating, and then she started lying even more. Said Mark was just a researcher, that they were testing a new drug, and that I was just imagining things. When I pressed her further, she snapped, calling me paranoid, accusing me of being jealous of her career and her research. She said she was doing everything to save me, that this was all for my benefit, not some affair. That was when I realized she was a master manipulator, twisting everything in her favor, even as she lied through her teeth. I felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and complete betrayal. How could she do this to me? To us? I'd been fighting for my life, and she was cheating, lying, sneaking around behind my back. It was like I was dying all over again, except this time it was my trust, my marriage, that was getting poisoned by her secrets. I couldn't even look at her. I wanted to scream and I wanted to cry, but mostly I just felt numb. That's when I knew I had to decide what to do next, because if she was willing to lie about everything, maybe there was no saving what was left of us. The thing is, I didn't want to lose her just yet. I still loved her, or at least I did. But I couldn't pretend I didn't see what she was doing. I had to know. Was this just an affair, or was there more? Was Mark just some guy she was screwing around with, or was he part of the reason she'd been so distant? I knew I needed proof, real proof, and I wasn't going to just sit back and get played anymore. I started planning my move, quietly gathering everything I could: text messages, emails, hotel receipts. I wasn't ready to confront her again, not yet. But I knew that soon I'd have to face her and get to the bottom of this mess, no matter how much it hurt. After I gathered the evidence, I felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. Every moment I spent in the house was like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I couldn't eat, couldn't concentrate. My mind kept circling back to her lies, to Mark, to everything I had trusted that now felt like a complete joke. I started questioning everything about our relationship, about her motives, about whether I was just some sick experiment to her, like I was a terminal case she was using for her own personal gain. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to do it on my own terms. I decided to stage a sort of intervention, in my own way. I took her phone, printed out the most incriminating messages, and set up a recording device. I wanted concrete proof, and I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some fool who believed her lies anymore. I was sick, yes, but I wasn't stupid. I still had some fight left in me. One evening I told her I needed to talk. She looked annoyed, like I was just bothering her with my paranoia. I sat her down and played the recording. Her face went ghostly pale when she heard her own voice talking about research trips, Mark, and test results. She tried to deny it, of course, claiming someone must have hacked her phone or that it was all a misunderstanding, but I wasn't buying it. The proof was right there, clear as day. She started spinning these elaborate lies, saying Mark was just helping her with the treatment, that they were working together on a cure, that it wasn't what it looked like. I looked at her and realized how good she was at lying. It was like she'd rehearsed her entire life for moments like this, but I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. Not after all I'd been through. I told her I didn't believe her, that I knew she was cheating and that I wanted her to leave. She sneered at me, told me I was jealous and bitter, and that I was making everything worse. Then she got up, stormed out of the room, and slammed the door behind her. That was the last straw. Honestly, I felt a strange mixture of relief and despair. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tear her down for the lies, for betraying me when I was already fighting for my life. But another part just felt broken, like I'd lost the one person I thought I could trust. I knew then I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. The woman I had loved, the woman I'd built my life with, was gone. Maybe she was always gone, just hiding behind her bitchy, manipulative mask. That night I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what to do next. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, living in a house full of lies with my trust shattered. I had a choice: try to salvage what was left or cut her loose and move on. But I wasn't sure I had the strength for the former. My body was failing, my mind was exhausted, and all I could feel was this gnawing pain, knowing that I'd been betrayed so brutally, so mindlessly, right when I needed her the most. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew deep down that my marriage was over. The question was, how do I pick up the pieces when everything I held dear has been ripped apart? The days that followed were a blur of pain, confusion, and a strange sense of clarity I'd never experienced before. I was still weak from the chemo, still trying to come to terms. with the fact that the woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me back, had been secretly cheating on me with Mark, this guy who was supposed to be helping us find a cure, not screwing around behind my back. Every time I looked at her things, I'd feel a surge of anger mixed with heartbreak. She was so bitchy about everything, arguing, accusing me of being paranoid, acting like I was some jealous lunatic. But now, looking back, I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a manipulator, a user. One day, I finally decided I'd had enough. I wasn't going to let her keep gaslighting me, not anymore. I sat down with my laptop and went through everything I had collected: texts, emails, hotel receipts, everything. I even found messages where she was talking about Mark, about planning their trips, laughing at how they were getting away with it. Reading that made my stomach turn. How could she be so cruel? How could she pretend to care, to support me, while she was out there sleeping with some guy who was testing a cure for my cancer? It felt like a punch in the gut every time I thought about it. I knew I had to act, but I didn't want to blow up recklessly. I wanted a plan, a way to get her caught red-handed, make her see that I wasn't some fool anymore. So I set up a little trap. I knew she'd be out again that afternoon, maybe visiting Mark or going for one of her research trips. I left my phone at home, pretending I was still weak and helpless, and I went out myself. I drove to a nearby hotel that I suspected she'd visit, and I checked the parking lot. Sure enough, her car was there, and I spotted her inside with Mark. I waited outside, just watching them, feeling this mixture of anger, betrayal, and a strange kind of helplessness. I recorded everything from outside: her laughing, Mark leaning in close, her hands touching his arm, the whole damn thing. I didn't want to confront her right then. I just wanted proof that I could use. When I finally left the scene, I felt like I'd done everything I could. I was physically drained, emotionally wrecked, but somehow I'd taken control of the situation. I knew that I couldn't keep pretending. I was okay with her lying to me anymore. Later that night, I sat her down again. I played the recordings, showed her the messages, everything I'd gathered. Her face went white, and for a moment I thought she might cry or break down. Instead, she just sneered and told me I was a crazy, jealous psycho. She denied everything, claiming I was stalking, that I was accusing her of things she didn't do. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about the trips, about the lies. I told her I was done pretending, that I was sick of her bullshit. She looked at me with this venomous glare and said she didn't care what I thought, that she'd do whatever she wanted, and that I wasn't worth her time anymore. That was the moment I realized her mind was made up. She was gone, emotionally, if not physically. She'd already checked out long before I did. I felt a strange mixture of relief and despair, knowing I finally had the truth, but also knowing my marriage was in its death throes. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't know how I'd pick up the pieces. All I knew was that I couldn't let her keep screwing me over, not anymore. I had to decide my next move, and quick, before she could do more damage, before I completely lost myself in this mess. After that night, everything shifted. I knew I couldn't keep living in this twisted limbo, caught between hope and despair. I had the evidence now, and I'd be damned if I didn't use it. My body was failing, but my mind was sharper than ever, focused on one thing: ending this nightmare once and for all. I decided to give her a final chance to come clean, to face what she'd done, but I also knew I couldn't trust her anymore. The love I'd once had was gone, replaced by this bitter realization that she'd been using me, using my illness to hide her own selfishness. I arranged for a meeting at our house, pretending I was still weak, still fragile from treatment. I wanted her to come home, face me, and see the truth laid bare. When she arrived, full of her usual bitchy attitude, I played her the recordings and showed her the messages on my laptop. I told her. I knew everything: the secret trips, Mark, the lies. I looked her straight in the eye and asked her why. Why had she done this? How could she betray me, the man fighting for his life, with a man she claimed was just helping her with research? Her reaction was wild. She started yelling, calling me crazy, saying I was just jealous, that I was imagining things, that Mark was just a good friend helping with the treatment. Then she snapped, telling me she was tired of my accusations, that I wasn't the man she married anymore. She threw her hands in the air and said she'd been sick of pretending for a long time that her feelings had changed and that she didn't owe me anything anymore. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I told her she needed to leave. Now, there was no way I was going to keep her in my life, not after all the lies, not after she'd betrayed my trust in the worst way. I told her I was done being her punching bag, her convenient partner while she slept around with some guy testing my cure. I told her I was going to file for divorce and I'd make sure she never saw a dime of my inheritance or my treatment money. I wasn't just ending a marriage, I was severing myself from her completely. She looked at me with pure venom, sneered, and then stormed out, slamming the door behind her. That feeling of finality hit me hard. I was scared, exhausted, but strangely relieved. For the first time in months, I felt like I was regaining some control over my life. I knew I'd be facing a long, painful road ahead, dealing with my health, my heartbreak, and this betrayal. But now I had clarity. I had cut out the poison. And honestly, I don't know what hurts more, the cancer or the fact that I was stupid enough to believe she was truly with me. Since she left, I've been trying to focus on myself. My health is hanging by a thread, but I refuse to let her destroy what little strength I have left. I've learned that trust is fragile and once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. I don't regret confronting her, even if it's cost me everything I thought I knew. Sometimes, the truth is the only thing that can set you free, even if it wounds you deeply. And from now on, I'll do whatever I can to hold on to whatever little dignity and hope I have left. Since she left, I've been trying to piece myself back together, but it's not easy. Every day feels like a test of my body, my mind, my heart. I still have the cancer, still fighting for every breath, every moment I can get. But what's been hardest isn't the disease itself. It's knowing I was betrayed so deeply by someone I trusted with everything. I keep replaying those moments, her lies, her sneers, the way she looked at me with contempt when I confronted her. It's like I'm trying to dissect the betrayal, understand how I missed it all these years. The truth is, part of me still feels stupid for not seeing it sooner. She was always bitchy, always quick to lie, but I convinced myself it was just her personality. Now I realize how good she was at hiding what she truly was. She's a master manipulator and I was just too weak, too sick to see it. The worst part is I loved her. I still do even after all this. That's what kills me. The fact that I genuinely thought she cared, that she was by my side because she loved me. Turns out she was just using me, using my illness as a reason to stay close while she got her thrill elsewhere. I've come to accept that I can't change what happened. I can only learn from it. The betrayal taught me that trust is fragile, and sometimes the people you think are your whole world are just pretending. I've been hurt so badly that I don't know if I'll ever fully heal, but I do know this. I'm not going to let her define my future. I'm going to focus on my treatment, on staying alive as long as I can, and on rebuilding some sense of dignity, alone if I have to. In some strange, bitter way, this whole experience has opened my eyes. I see the world a little clearer now, how people can hide their true selves behind masks of kindness or support. I used to think love was enough, that trust was unbreakable. Now I know better. I know who she was, who she really is, and I don't regret confronting her even if it cost me everything. Because sometimes the only way to find peace is to face the brutal truth head-on. So I'll keep fighting, physically, emotionally, whatever it takes. I'll remember the lessons, cherish the moments I still have, and try to forgive myself for trusting her for so long. Maybe someday I'll be able to look back and realize I was stronger than I thought. But for now, I'm just glad I finally saw her for who she really was. And that's enough to propel me forward, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart.